Millie sits in a house with police officers, moments away from being arrested for a crime linked to a body found upstairs. She reflects on her missed opportunity to escape and the detective's frustration at her vague answers. The detective, uncertain about making an arrest, questions Millie about discovering the body, which Millie claims was due to a sound they heard. As tension builds, another younger officer calls the detective urgently from the staircase, hinting at something significant upstairs that could change the situation. In Chapter 1, Millie interviews for a live-in housekeeper position with the wealthy Winchester family. Despite her doubts about being hired due to her doctored resume and homelessness, she impresses Nina Winchester, who seems eager to hire her. Nina shows her around the luxurious home, including the small, eerie attic room Millie would stay in. Millie is unsettled by both the room and Nina's daughter, Cecilia, who seems unnervingly cold. As Millie leaves, the landscaper's silent, intense stare and head shake give her a feeling of unease, as though warning her about something she can't yet understand. In Chapter 2, Millie is living out of her car after losing her job and apartment. Her life is a series of small, uncomfortable adjustments, such as showering at rest stops and eating repetitive meals. After getting rejected for a job at a fast food restaurant, Millie feels hopeless, believing no one wants to hire her. Suddenly, she receives an unexpected call from Nina Winchester, offering her the job she had interviewed for a week ago. Shocked and relieved, Millie agrees to start immediately, hiding the fact that she's been living in her car and has spent time in prison. In Chapter 3, Millie arrives at the gated Winchester home for her first day of work as a live-in housekeeper. After some awkward communication with the Italian landscaper, Enzo, she enters the house, noticing it's much messier than before. Nina Winchester greets Millie warmly and gives her a new iPhone. Millie meets Andrew Winchester, who is polite and wealthy. Nina leads Millie to her attic room, which has a concerning lock on the outside and a painted shut window. Enzo previously warned Millie with the word pericolo, which she later learns means danger. Millie feels increasingly uneasy. In Chapter 4, Millie spends 7 hours cleaning Nina's filthy house, managing to make the kitchen habitable. While finishing up, she meets Cecilia, Nina's daughter, who behaves both creepy and difficult. Millie attempts to prepare a snack, unaware that Cecilia has a peanut allergy, causing a tense situation when Cecilia accuses Millie of trying to harm her. Nina confronts Millie, who insists she wasn't informed of the allergy. Though Nina forgives her with a warning, Millie feels guilty and is left scrambling to make dinner. She is determined to fix things with Cecilia as well as with Nina and Andrew. In Chapter 5, Millie prepares dinner using pre-marinated chicken following printed instructions. As she cooks, Andrew Winchester returns home, loosening his tie and complimenting the meal and her cleaning efforts. Millie feels flustered by his charm but remains professional. Nina arrives, and the couple shares an overly affectionate moment, making Millie uncomfortable. Andrew jokes about Nina's lack of cooking skills, which she takes poorly. Andrew offers Millie a seat at dinner, but Nina quickly intervenes, ensuring Millie declines. Millie senses Nina's discomfort with Andrew's compliments and focuses on avoiding conflict, intending to stay out of the family's dynamics. In Chapter 6, Millie enjoys her first night sleeping on a bed instead of in her car, appreciating the comfort of having a nearby bathroom. However, she wakes in the middle of the night and panics when she believes the bedroom door is locked, triggering memories of her time in prison. She fears that the Winchesters, particularly Nina, may have trapped her. Millie considers calling 911, but her phone has no signal. Eventually, she discovers the door was merely stuck, not locked, but her sense of unease remains, leaving her wondering if she should leave while she can. In Chapter 7, Millie finds Nina frantically destroying the kitchen, searching for her lost PTA notes. Nina blames Millie for throwing them out, although Millie is unsure. Andrew arrives and consoles his wife, suggesting some notes might be saved on the computer. Nina storms off, leaving Millie to clean the chaotic kitchen. Andrew stays behind to help, but eventually lets Millie take over, acknowledging Nina's high-strung nature. Millie reflects on a photo of Andrew and Nina from happier times, sensing that Nina has changed, but she dismisses it as none of her concern and continues cleaning. In Chapter 8, Millie goes grocery shopping for the Winchesters and buys expensive ingredients for their meals. When she returns, the landscaper, Enzo, helps carry the groceries inside. He seems concerned about Millie's safety, but leaves abruptly when Nina comes downstairs. Nina warns Millie not to invite strangers into the house without permission and expresses her displeasure about Enzo being inside. She also confronts Millie about lying regarding her need for glasses. After a tense conversation, Nina orders Millie to clean the living room before leaving the house, accusing her of flirting with the landscaper. In Chapter 9, Millie prepares dinner for Andrew and Cecilia while Nina is at a PTA meeting. The atmosphere is quieter without Nina's presence. Andrew arrives home just as Millie finishes cooking steak, and Cecilia is unenthusiastic about it. Andrew takes over and makes chicken nuggets for Cecilia, explaining her preferences. Millie is charmed by Andrew, but chooses to eat in her room to avoid potential conflict with Nina. After Andrew leaves, Millie quickly eats at Cecilia's rejected steak before returning to her bedroom, reflecting on the dynamics of her new job and her feelings toward Andrew. In Chapter 10, Millie finds Nina with a garbage bag, feeling anxious about what's next. Nina asks Millie to take the bag of dresses for donation and insists that Millie try on some of the clothes, which are size 6 or 8. Millie reluctantly agrees, appreciating the generosity. During their conversation, Nina reveals she and Andrew are trying for a baby, which explains her unpredictable moods. Millie raises a concern about her room's window being painted shut, but Nina dismisses it. After accepting a key to her room, Millie feels uncertain about Nina's reliability and the future dynamics in the household. In Chapter 11, Nina frantically calls Millie to pick up Cecilia from school but fails to provide details, leaving Millie in a panic. After a frantic search online, Millie discovers it's actually Windsor Academy, not Winter Academy. Upon arrival, she faces parking challenges and encounters judgmental parents. After finally locating Cecilia, Millie learns that Rachel, another parent, has been tasked with picking her up for karate. Nina confirms Rachel's arrangement, leaving Millie frustrated and questioning Nina's reliability and mental state. The chapter ends with Millie pondering if Nina's eccentric behavior hints at deeper issues. In Chapter 12, Millie reflects on Nina's mental health as she cleans the master bathroom, noting its disarray, including a used tampon. While cleaning, Millie considers looking into Nina's medicine cabinet and ultimately succumbs to temptation. She discovers multiple medication bottles, including one for haloperidol and antipsychotic. Just as she investigates further, Nina interrupts, questioning Millie about her cleaning products. After Nina leaves for an outing, Millie searches online for haloperidol, learning it treats serious mental health issues like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. She feels shame for snooping and fears what else Nina might be hiding. In Chapter 13, while vacuuming, Millie sees Enzo in the backyard and decides to approach him, hoping to learn more about Nina's mental health. She brings him a glass of water as a gesture of goodwill, although communication is challenging due to the language barrier. Enzo drinks the water and reveals he has worked for the Winchesters for 3 years. Millie tries to gauge his feelings about Nina, but he grows evasive and returns to work, leaving her frustrated. It's clear he knows something but isn't willing to share, reinforcing Millie's concerns about Nina's well-being. In Chapter 14, Millie attends her monthly parole officer meeting with Pam, who has been supportive of her transition since prison. Despite struggling with honesty, Millie avoids revealing her eviction and recent job loss. Pam praises her progress, urging her to make friends and date someone who treats her well, though Millie isn't ready for that. Later, she sneaks into the living room to watch TV at night and encounters Andrew, who surprises her with his humor and charm. Their interaction is interrupted by Nina, who reprimands Millie for being downstairs at night. After Nina leaves, Millie reacts by smashing a glass in frustration, setting the stage for potential conflict. In Chapter 15, Nina hosts a PTA gathering in her backyard to plan a field day for the kids, stressing about preparations. Millie, her assistant, is overwhelmed by the messy house and tasks assigned by Nina, including picking up hors d'oeuvres. Despite her stress, she cleans the home and finds Andrew in the backyard, who offers to help. He agrees to pick up the hors d'oeuvres, relieving Millie's burden. As they talk, Andrew reveals he isn't Cecilia's biological father, but loves her as his own. The chapter highlights Millie's mounting pressure, Andrew's support, and hints at the couple's struggle to conceive. In Chapter 16, the PTA meeting in Nina's backyard proves to be a nightmare for Millie, who is forced to stand attentively while the other women criticize the hors d'oeuvres. Nina's friends, Jillian, Patrice, and Suzanne, discuss Nina's weight and beauty, leading Millie to realize they have a history of gossiping about her. Nina mentions wanting another baby, which excites the women, but when she leaves the room, they mock her. Millie learns that Nina has serious mental health issues and feels guilty for her frustrations. The women's comments about jealousy hint at underlying tensions regarding Millie's presence in the house. In Chapter 17, Andrew and Nina visit a fertility specialist discussing IVF after Nina's tests. Millie is tasked with watching Cecilia, but the girl is uncooperative, throwing a bologna sandwich on the floor after requesting an abalone sandwich. When Andrew and Nina return, they look disheveled and upset. Nina snaps at Millie about the mess, revealing the appointment went poorly. Andrew confides to Millie that Nina likely won't get pregnant, expressing his disappointment. Millie offers to help by arranging tickets to a show Nina wants to see, and Andrew thanks her, acknowledging Nina's temperamental behavior and her appreciation for Millie's support. In Chapter 18, Millie is awakened by shouting from Andrew and Nina's bedroom. Concerned, she attempts to check on them, but struggles to open her door. When she finally gets out, she hears Nina angrily blaming herself for their fertility issues. After a series of crashes, Nina opens the door, revealing blood on her nightgown and hands. Millie, worried about Andrew, asks about his whereabouts. Nina threatens her job if she doesn't return to her room, revealing Andrew is safe in the bathroom. As Millie leaves, Nina warns her to stay in the attic at night, leaving Millie shaken and terrified. In Chapter 19, the morning after Nina's outburst, she appears calm, though her bandaged hand shows evidence of last night's events. She asks Millie to prepare her usual breakfast and expresses excitement about tickets to a Broadway show that Andrew suggested. As they chat, Andrew arrives, and Millie feels jealousy watching their affectionate exchange. Afterward, Enzo delivers a package, and Millie, feeling adventurous, attempts to flirt with him, but he reacts angrily, clearly misunderstanding her intentions. Enzo warns Millie that it's dangerous before hurriedly leaving her embarrassed and confused about their interaction. In Chapter 20, Millie feels humiliated after Enzo's rejection while waiting for Cecilia's tap dancing class. She meets Amanda, another servant, who shares gossip about Nina, warning Millie that Nina's the jealous type and suggesting she has mental health issues. Amanda reveals that Nina once tried to drown Cecilia, leading to a police intervention that saved the child. Millie is horrified, grappling with the revelation that Nina attempted to kill her daughter. This new information adds to Millie's fear of Nina and the realization that she must tread carefully as her safety may depend on keeping Nina content. In Chapter 21, Millie contemplates a heavy cardboard box on the dining table addressed to Evelyn Winchester. Andrew arrives, cheerfully speculating about the box being an early Christmas gift from his mother, who often spoiled Cecilia. He reveals Nina's parents are deceased, and they discuss Nina's history. Andrew opens the box, which contains baby items, upsetting him. He confesses he didn't need to see it, hinting at issues in his relationship with Nina. Millie offers comfort, and they share a moment of connection, but Andrew quickly pulls away, leaving Millie questioning Nina's ability to make him happy in the future of their relationship. In Chapter 22, Millie spends the week avoiding Andrew, grappling with her feelings for him while trying to keep her job. During dinner preparations, Nina praises Millie's cooking and asks about tickets for an upcoming show, which Millie confirms are booked for Sunday. However, Andrew arrives, and Nina realizes Millie has booked the wrong date, causing her to lash out. She insists on holding Millie financially responsible for the tickets and hotel, which exceed Millie's pay. Andrew tries to defuse the situation, but Nina remains furious, leaving Millie distressed and rushing to the kitchen to hide her tears. In Chapter 23, on Sunday, Millie learns that Andrew refunded the show tickets, relieving her financial worries, and that Cecilia will be gone for 2 weeks. While helping Nina pack Cecilia's luggage, Andrew offers to help, but Nina insists he focus on work. After a brief interaction with Cecilia, Andrew confides that he couldn't refund the show tickets and encourages Millie to go to the city with a friend, even offering to accompany her himself. Millie hesitates, but eventually agrees, despite feeling anxious about spending time alone with him. She worries that this outing could lead to complications in their relationship. In Chapter 24, as Millie prepares for the Broadway show, she realizes she needs to dress nicely and decides to wear one of Nina's fancy white dresses, despite her dislike for the color. After choosing a form-fitting cocktail dress, she applies minimal makeup. When she meets Andrew, he is visibly taken aback by her appearance, heightening the tension between them. They head out in Andrew's BMW, and Millie feels both excited and anxious. While discussing the show, Millie feels guilty about Nina's absence, but Andrew reassures her that it's okay. Millie notices Andrew's lingering gaze on her legs, increasing the awkwardness of their situation. In Chapter 25, on a beautiful June evening, Millie and Andrew arrive at the theater, and she is awed by its grandeur. As they settle into their front row seats, Millie feels special for the first time since leaving prison. Grateful to Andrew for this experience. However, a text from Nina about taking out the trash brings her back to reality, reminding her of her employer's expectations. After an amazing show, Andrew invites her to dinner at a French restaurant. During their meal, they bond over personal stories, but tension arises when Andrew mentions the lack of intimacy in his marriage, hinting at deeper issues with Nina. In Chapter 26, Millie and Andrew enjoy a wonderful dinner, sharing laughter and conversation over 2 bottles of wine. As they finish, Andrew acknowledges he shouldn't drive and suggests they go to the plaza for the night. Despite her reservations, Millie reluctantly agrees as he promises separate rooms. In a taxi, Andrew admires her legs, heightening the tension between them. They share intimate compliments, and as the cab swerves, Millie ends up pressed against him. Andrew kisses her, and she instinctively kisses him back, complicating their relationship further as they confront their feelings for each other. In Chapter 27, Millie and Andrew wake up together in the Plaza Hotel after spending the night together, having crossed boundaries due to their drunkenness. Millie reflects on the fleeting nature of their encounter, knowing Andrew is married and feeling both exhilarated and guilty. As they talk, Andrew expresses concern about the situation, asking her to keep it a secret from his wife, Nina. Millie reassures him, but internally struggles with the reality of their relationship. Both acknowledge that it can't happen again, wishing for a different circumstance. Despite the intimacy shared, Millie understands the impossibility of their connection. In Chapter 28, during the drive back to Long Island, Millie and Andrew remain mostly silent, with Andrew planning to change clothes for a meeting. Millie suddenly realizes she forgot to take out the trash, which could lead to trouble with Nina. Andrew offers to handle it, but they struggle to find a solution. Once home, Enzo, the landscaper, unexpectedly sees them together. Andrew asks Enzo to take the soot chucked out the garbage to the dump for a reward, eventually persuading him after increasing the payment. As Enzo leaves, Andrew expresses frustration about him, unaware of the underlying tension and danger associated with Enzo's relationship with Nina. In Chapter 29, Nina returns home after dropping Cecilia off at camp, excited about her shopping spree. She asks Millie to carry the heavy bags upstairs, commenting on Millie's fitness. During the conversation, Nina mentions calling the house phone the previous night and expresses concern that neither Millie nor Andrew answered. Millie nervously covers up the fact that she was with Andrew and reminds Nina to check his cell. Nina seems suspicious but doesn't press further. After delivering the bags, Millie enters the master bathroom and is haunted by dark memories. She texts Andrew, warning him about Nina's call, knowing he will handle it. In Chapter 30, with Cecilia gone, the house feels quieter, and Nina appears unusually cheerful. Millie and Andrew avoid each other due to their affair, but a brief, intense encounter while cleaning up broken glass reignites their unresolved feelings. Nina later humiliates Millie by revealing her prison past at dinner, shocking Andrew. Millie retreats to her room, humiliated and heartbroken. She then notices a playbill on her nightstand, realizing Nina must have placed it there. The revelation dawns. Nina knows about her and Andrew's night in Manhattan, making Millie aware she has a powerful new enemy in the household. In Chapter 31, Nina torments Millie with an overly specific grocery list, demanding photos of alternatives for each item. While shopping, Millie is distracted by thoughts of Andrew and their unacknowledged feelings. After checking out, she is confronted by supermarket security, who accuses her of shoplifting based on a customer report. Panicked, Millie fears returning to prison. Security checks her receipt against her cart, and after a tense moment, everything matches, allowing her to leave. Millie suspects Nina orchestrated the incident out of revenge for her affair with Andrew, and she feels certain this won't be the end of Nina's schemes. In Chapter 32, Millie struggles to sleep, preoccupied with thoughts of Andrew and their past night together. While seeking water, she discovers Andrew on the porch, and they share an intimate moment culminating in a passionate kiss. Despite their feelings, they acknowledge the complications of their situation. Millie returns upstairs, but encounters Nina in the hallway, who questions her about Andrew's whereabouts. Millie lies, claiming she came for water, while Nina's suspicious demeanor hints that she may have seen the kiss. Millie feels the weight of her choices and fears the consequences of crossing Nina, realizing the danger in their rivalry. In Chapter 33, Millie enjoys her day off, reflecting on her past in prison as she relaxes at a park. Returning home, she finds Nina accusing her of stealing expensive clothing, claiming Millie took what Nina had given her. Andrew intervenes, defending Millie and revealing his growing disillusionment with Nina. Their argument escalates, leading Andrew to state he no longer loves Nina and wants a separation. Nina reacts with fury, threatening Andrew, but he remains firm. After Nina leaves, Millie and Andrew share a moment of intimacy, signaling a shift in their relationship as they both move on from Nina's presence. In Chapter 34, Millie wakes up in the guest bedroom beside Andrew, feeling relieved that Nina is no longer in the picture. Andrew expresses his affection for Millie and insists she take a break from her usual chores, allowing her to stay as long as she needs. During breakfast, Andrew becomes annoyed with the landscaper, Enzo, who seems to be around too often. After confronting Enzo and firing him, Enzo warns Millie that she is in terrible danger, but their conversation is cut short when Andrew calls for her to come inside. Millie is left with unanswered questions about Enzo's warning as she rejoins Andrew. In Chapter 36, Andrew texts Millie that he's stuck at work, leaving her disappointed and alone. She prepares a dinner she hoped to share with him, but ends up eating alone. While cleaning the house, Millie discovers Nina has been tracking her through a hidden app and deletes it. Haunted by Enzo's warning of danger, she becomes increasingly paranoid, especially when she thinks she sees a car parked outside. When her phone rings with a blocked number, a distorted voice warns her to stay away from Andrew. Determined to take control, Millie decides to move into the master bedroom, but when Andrew returns, he supports her decision, sensing her distress. In Chapter 36, Andrew texts Millie that he's stuck at work, leaving her disappointed and alone. She prepares a dinner she hoped to share with him, but ends up eating alone. While cleaning the house, Millie discovers Nina has been tracking her through a hidden app and deletes it. Haunted by Enzo's warning of danger, she becomes increasingly paranoid, especially when she thinks she sees a car parked outside. When her phone rings with a blocked number, a distorted voice warns her to stay away from Andrew. Determined to take control, Millie decides to move into the master bedroom, but when Andrew returns, he supports her decision, sensing her distress. In Chapter 37, after a night of intimacy with Andrew, Millie wakes up in the early morning needing to use the bathroom, only to find that Andrew is no longer in the cot. She assumes he has gone to his own bed due to the uncomfortable sleeping conditions. As she tries to leave the room, she discovers the door won't open. It's locked. Panic sets in as she realizes she's trapped in the attic room. The feeling of claustrophobia intensifies, leaving her anxious and unsure of what to do next, emphasizing her growing sense of danger in her situation. Part 2. In Chapter 38, Nina reflects on her surprising circumstances. She's in a hotel while her husband Andy is home with another woman. Frustrated, she uses a lighter to burn a photo of Andy, feeling liberated as she destroys a symbol of her marriage. The narrative shifts to Nina's past, revealing her struggles as a single mother working a receptionist job after dropping out of graduate school. At work, an embarrassing incident occurs when she leaks milk in front of her boss, Stuart. Afterward, Andrew Winchester, her boss's boss, invites her to lunch. They connect over hot dogs, and he asks her out for dinner, offering to arrange babysitting for her daughter, Cecilia. Nina's excited, but conflicted about accepting his invitation. Chapter 39. Nina reflects on her 3-month marriage to Andy, feeling lucky despite her unease about his mother, Evelyn. Andy appears perfect, attentive, stable, and kind to her daughter, Cecilia. However, when he asks for help in the attic, Nina discovers a small locked room instead of paperwork. Andy leaves her inside, claiming she needs to learn a lesson. Panic sets in as he refuses to unlock the door even after hearing her screams. His calm demeanor turns threatening, revealing a sinister side she hadn't seen before, leaving her feeling trapped and betrayed. In Chapter 40, Nina desperately pounds on the door, trying to escape her husband Andy's soundproof trap. After hours of screaming, she breaks down, worried about her daughter, Cecilia, left alone with him. Andy eventually speaks, taunting her about her hair and refusing to let her out until she learns the consequences. In the morning, Nina discovers limited water and a bucket for waste, further realizing Andy's cruelty. He demands she cut 100 strands of her hair as a punishment for her roots showing, insisting they must come from her scalp. Desperate to escape, Nina agrees to his bizarre terms. In Chapter 41, by 7 o'clock, Nina manages to pull out 100 strands of her hair to satisfy Andy's bizarre demand. She slides the envelope under the door, anxiously awaiting his response. After a tense moment, Andy claims one strand is unusable and tells her to start over, leaving her without food or water. The next morning, she's exhausted and weak when he finally checks on her. After confirming she completed the task, Andy rewards her with water and a bagel. Despite her anger, she reluctantly accepts his help to reach Cecilia, knowing she must stay strong for her daughter. In Chapter 42, Nina wakes up disoriented and hears running water coming from the master bathroom. Concerned about Cecilia's whereabouts, she crawls to investigate, feeling weak from her recent ordeal. Upon entering the bathroom, she discovers Cecilia unconscious in the tub, nearly submerged. As she attempts to save her, a voice commands her to stop. A police officer rescues Cecilia, confirming she has been drugged. As paramedics tend to them, a police officer questions Nina about attempting to drown her daughter. Confused and powerless, Nina realizes that her attempts to save Cecilia have been misinterpreted, leaving her helpless in the situation. In Chapter 43, Nina spends 8 months in Clearview Psychiatric Hospital, where she is told she attempted murder-suicide by drugging herself and Cecilia, then placing her in the bathtub. She has no memory of these actions, but learns she suffers from major depression and delusions. Despite vivid memories of her captivity, she comes to believe she was responsible, convinced by her therapist and the support of her husband Andy, who visits regularly and brings her treats. As she prepares to return home, Nina feels both excitement and dread, especially about confronting the attic, vowing never to go there again. In Chapter 44, Nina has been in therapy with Dr. Hewitt for 4 months since her discharge from Clearview. They discuss her fear of the attic, which she has avoided since returning home. Although a police officer confirmed it's just a storage closet, Nina remains uncertain. Dr. Hewitt encourages her to confront her fears, and Andy supports this idea. After a session, Nina returns home to find Cecilia excited to see her. Andy's mother, Evelyn, visits and disapproves of the house, leading to tension. After dinner, Nina decides to finally confront the attic, agreeing to go up with Andy later. In Chapter 45, Nina and Andy stand at the attic staircase, where he reassures her that facing her fears will help her heal. As they enter, the room is unexpectedly dark and Nina feels panic. Andy reveals he has boarded up the window and installed bright lights. He leaves her alone, making her choose between bright light or complete darkness, reminiscent of her past trauma. Alone, she wrestles with her memories and the reality of her situation. When Andy returns, he establishes strict rules. She must remain silent about what happened and accept his authority. Nina realizes she is trapped in a nightmare. In Chapter 46, Nina reflects on her oppressive marriage to Andy, who has been financially supportive but emotionally abusive. Despite her attempts to escape and warnings from friends, he maintains control, punishing her and manipulating their daughter, Cecilia. He uses her mental health history to threaten her, making her feel trapped. Nina fantasizes about escaping once Cecilia is older. After a lunch with Suzanne, she notices her friend's interest in their landscaper, Enzo. In a moment of desperation, she confides in him about her situation, but quickly regrets it, fearing Andy's wrath. She retreats into the house, where Andy's flowers serve as a chilling reminder of his control. In Chapter 47, Nina has been locked in the attic for hours, punished by Andy for a minor incident involving air freshener. To escape, she pepper-sprayed herself and now waits for Andy to let her out. She notices Enzo working in the backyard, and when he realizes she's there, he confronts her about her situation. Despite her pleas for him to leave, he vows to return and break down the door if she's not out by morning. After Andy finally releases her, Nina confides in Enzo about the abuse she has suffered. Enzo, enraged, vows to kill Andy, but Nina insists he can't act on it, fearing the consequences. Enzo offers to help her escape, igniting a flicker of hope. In Chapter 48, a week later, Nina meets with Enzo to finalize their escape plan. To avoid detection, she leaves her phone behind and sneaks into his car at a fast food restaurant. Enzo reveals he has also escaped a violent past, motivated by his sister's tragic fate. Nina realizes she must gather essential documents and cash for their escape, and Enzo offers to help. After dropping Cecilia off at school, Nina discovers Andy has found one of her safety deposit boxes, leaving her desperate. She rushes to Enzo, who proposes a drastic plan. He will kill Andy. Nina protests, but an alternative plan begins to form in her mind. In Chapter 49, Nina seeks a replacement for herself to escape her controlling husband, Andy. She finds Wilhelmina Calloway, a beautiful and desperate woman with a criminal past. Despite Enzo's disapproval, Nina hires Millie to help at home, planning to create tension between her and Andy. Nina intentionally makes the house messy to justify Millie's presence, and when Andy discovers her hiring, he reluctantly accepts. Nina aims to foster a mutual attraction between them, believing Andy will eventually want children with Millie. After receiving devastating news about her fertility, Nina manipulates the situation, knowing Millie and Andy's connection will blossom. In Chapter 50, Nina reflects on her newfound freedom after being thrown out by Andy, relieved she can take Cecilia without legal complications. At the hotel, Enzo visits and they share an unexpected kiss, leading to a passionate night together, rekindling feelings Nina thought she lost. However, the mood shifts when Enzo insists they must help Millie, who is still with Andy. Despite Nina's reservations about Millie's character, Enzo argues for Millie's humanity and vows to warn her about the danger. Nina, overwhelmed by emotion, realizes Enzo's determination conflicts with her desire to leave her past behind. Part 3. In Chapter 51, Millie finds herself locked in a room and realizes Andrew may have accidentally done it when he went to sleep in his own bed. Frustrated, she discovers that her phone is missing and her attempts to contact Andrew fail. He eventually acknowledges he has the key, but shifts the conversation to a bizarre punishment for her perceived disrespect towards his books. He demands she balance 3 textbooks on her stomach for 3 hours before he'll let her out. Millie is horrified to learn Andrew has been watching her, escalating her anxiety about his increasingly controlling behavior. In Chapter 52, locked in the attic for over an hour, Millie uses a bucket to relieve herself and discovers the mini-fridge is empty. Andrew's demand for her to balance 3 heavy textbooks on her stomach for 3 hours looms over her. After struggling with the weight, she gives up but is taunted by Andrew, who insists she must start over. Despite feeling weak and thirsty, Millie endures a second round, ultimately completing the task. When Andrew finally lets her out, he hands her water while revealing he watched her the entire time. Millie resolves not to be a prisoner again and retrieves pepper spray from her pocket. In Chapter 53, Nina uncovers Millie Calloway's dark past after hiring a private investigator. Millie, arrested at 16, served time for manslaughter after killing a classmate who was assaulting her friend. The detective's findings reveal Millie's history of violence, including an expulsion for breaking a boy's arm and being fired for assaulting a coworker. Nina reflects on her initial intent to hire a maid to replace her, but now sees Millie as a potential assassin. She reveals her true plan. She hired Millie to kill Andrew, although Millie remains unaware of this sinister motive. In Chapter 54, Millie sprays Andrew with pepper spray, blinding him and seizing his phone. As he struggles in the locked attic room, she changes his phone settings to prevent him from calling for help. Millie reflects on her past, recalling the incident that led her to prison and how she felt empowered. She sends a text to Andrew's mother pretending to be him, deflecting suspicion. When Millie confronts Andrew, he apologizes, but she demands he apologize for his past behavior toward her before letting him out. She makes him lie on the floor with books stacked on him, forcing him to position them uncomfortably. In Chapter 55, while waiting for 5 hours to pass, Millie reflects on Nina, suspecting she left the pepper spray for her, indicating Andrew may have harmed her in the past. Millie recalls her own history of violence and betrayal, feeling isolated and untrusted. After 3 hours, Millie checks on Andrew, who is in pain and angry. He demands to be let out, threatening her. Millie reveals he must endure 5 more hours with the books on his genitals, rejecting his offers of money. As he pleads for water, Millie walks away, considering how long someone can survive without it. In Chapter 56, Nina meets her daughter Cecilia at camp, relieved to see her happy and free from their father Andrew. As they discuss their plans to escape to Disneyland, Nina receives a call from Enzo, who warns her that Millie is in trouble. Enzo reveals he noticed a mark on Millie's car tire, indicating it hasn't moved in 3 days, and that the attic light is on, suggesting someone is inside. Enzo urges Nina to help Millie, but Nina hesitates. After realizing the potential danger Millie faces, Nina reluctantly agrees to return home, demanding a condition from Enzo. In Chapter 57, Millie wakes up and checks Andrew's phone to view the attic camera, discovering he is no longer in the room. After confirming he is actually still there, Millie realizes she must uphold her end of their bargain. She prepares to let him out, but taunts him by delaying, leading to his desperate attempts to break down the door. Millie then hands Andrew a pair of pliers, demanding he pull out a tooth to gain his freedom. Andrew resists at first, but eventually reaches the breaking point, howling in pain as he prepares to mutilate himself for escape, unaware of Millie's true intentions. In Chapter 58, Nina senses something is wrong as she arrives at Andrew's house. She left her daughter, Cece, with Enzo for protection, knowing she can't trust anyone else. Crouching behind Millie's car, she notices a mark Enzo made on the tire. When Suzanne approaches, Nina feigns normalcy and brushes off questions about rumors regarding her marriage. After entering her dark home, she calls for Andrew and Millie but gets no response. As she climbs the stairs, anxiety builds. She finds the attic door open and hears light from within. Determined to rescue Millie, she unlocks the attic door, fearing for her friend's safety. In Chapter 59, Nina enters the attic and discovers Andrew's dead body, horrified by the sight. Millie appears, pointing pepper spray at her, visibly shaken. After confirming Andrew is dead, Millie panics, fearing prison for what she believes she's done. Nina reassures her that she'll take the blame, claiming Millie was on leave. She's determined to protect Millie, despite the implications for herself, including returning to a psychiatric hospital. Millie, realizing the gravity of the situation, quickly leaves. Alone with Andrew's body, Nina calls the police, accepting the consequences of her actions and the finality of the situation. In Chapter 60, Nina waits anxiously in her home, fearing arrest as Detective Connors investigates Andrew's death. She calls Enzo, expressing her worries, but he offers to testify about her abuse. Nina reassures him that their daughter Cece is fine and talks to her briefly. Connors returns, questioning Nina about the bruises on Andrew's body and the circumstances of his death. As she navigates his probing questions, she learns that his daughter Kathleen was Andrew's ex-fiancée. Connors suggests he believes Nina's story, hinting at the family's influence. Ultimately, Nina realizes she may avoid arrest after all. In Chapter 61, Nina attends Andy's wake, grappling with the reality of his death and the facade of grief she must maintain. Encountering her former friend Suzanne, Nina feels the weight of sympathy while hiding her true emotions. Enzo arrives, expressing his reluctance to leave with her, which saddens Nina. After he takes their daughter Cecilia for food, the Winchester family arrives. Robert offers condolences, while Evelyn implies she knows about Andy's true state at the time of death, suggesting a darker understanding of their family dynamics. Evelyn's cryptic remarks hint at her suspicion, leaving Nina feeling trapped and exposed. Epilogue. Millie interviews for a housekeeping job with Lisa Killefer, who seems enthusiastic and polished. Millie reflects on her past year, living off Nina's deposit after Andrew's death was ruled accidental. Surprised to learn that Nina recommended her, Millie feels optimistic about the job. However, she notices a dark bruise on Lisa's arm, suggesting an abusive situation. Realizing Nina's recommendation may stem from understanding Millie's own experiences, Millie decides to accept the job, sensing an opportunity to help Lisa while continuing to rebuild her life after the tumultuous events surrounding the Winchesters.